Right, hello guys, and welcome to season 2 of Cartalk.
Yep.
Because we didn't actually address this in the last video, but yeah, we've actually started season 2, which was really good. We're really happy to be back. Really glad that we've actually managed to catch up.
Yeah.
Actually, it's been really nice to see you. Actually, it feels like it's been forever, but it's yeah. Welcome to the new season, the new topics, and we're really happy to be back. And
It's just going to be a continuation of the last season.
yeah, it's going to be a continuation of us sitting around and talking about car related stuff,
Yep.
really. And I mean, today's topic as well is going to be, I mean, the weather's got worse and we've got even more worse weather coming in from where we're recording now. So we thought we'd talk about stuff that might actually be something
Oh,
that
yeah.
might help some of you guys out and a little bit, tiny bit. And we were going to talk about
Car films.
car films, yeah, and some of our favourite car films. Hopefully, some of them are ones you haven't heard of before, and might give you something to watch if you're sat in on a really rainy, dreary day and you can't actually go out and touch or have fun in your real car.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no. So we thought this would be quite a good topic, and we thought
Yeah.
we might touch on a couple of others which would be fairly similar for these winter months which are coming up. That hopefully you guys will enjoy, and hopefully, like I said, it'll give you something a bit more better to do and everything. Then,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, there's nothing worse than being stuck inside looking at your car and not being able to do anything with it.
exactly, that's it. And I was going to say because yeah, because I was going to say what's can you think of one of your favourites off the top of your head, sort of thing, like of one of your favourite car films?
One of my favourites is one that not a lot of people may have heard of, and it's actually a Jackie Chan film. It's called
Yes.
Thunderbolt,
I say,
and it's basically him and his father. Well, they're basically mechanics, and they get hired by the police to take modified, and street racing cars off the street and everything like that.
that's right. Because in Japan they have to be very, or China and Japan they have to be very strict on modified cars, aren't they? And this, yeah,
But he's also, I think, he has a background in racing, and he gets on the wrong side of the villain of the movie, and who kidnaps his sisters and wants to race him in order to get him back.
that's right. Yeah,
And
such a good film.
it's a fantastic film, and it's obviously because it's set in Japan. Fantastic cars, all the stuff you'd see in the early 90s, like RX-7s and R32 Skylines and Evos and all that kind of stuff.
It's
But also there's fantastic action scenes in it and fight scenes, and
that's it. Being Jackie Chan, lots of really cool badass kung fu.
and for you, one car in particular.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Yeah, it's actually, if like me, you're a classic Vauxhall fan, I believe it's the only car film I've ever found that's got a Cavalier in it, and it's actually a touring car tribute as well,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's got the Scott Cleland colours on it, which is quite cool. I don't know. Yeah, that was the only. I'm sure that's the only car film I've seen.
I don't think I've ever seen
Cavalier
one
or
with
Opel
him.
Vectra in. Yeah, I'll say. Let me know if you know of another one. That'd be interesting to find out myself. I have to admit.
But yeah, it was one I randomly taped. Well, that's showing our age, isn't it? One that I randomly taped off Channel 4 one night and just thought, it's a Jackie Chan film. Says it's about cars. Give it a crack, and it's one of those ones that. And I'll even watch it with the actual foreign language on and the subtitles, because it's the dubbed version is terrible, just like the dubbed version of Initial D is terrible compared to the original.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, funny enough, you mentioned Initial D there. That was actually going to be one of the next ones I went to, because I was going to say, I was going to like sort of do a segue from that one, because it's because it's got a foreign language on it compared to English. I was going to say, but there's one of my favourites which you might not have heard of is Initial D. I think you may have heard of it from computer games. There's an anime series, I believe, that it originally came from.
Comic, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a comic book anime series, again from Japan or China. I think it's Japanese, isn't it, or Chinese? Yeah. And yeah, Initial D, the film, is fantastic, and it follows the same sort of thing. It follows is it Takashi or something like that, I think his name is. He was actually played by the same actor who is in Green Hornet with.
Oh, he plays Kato, doesn't he?
That's right. Yeah, he's the actor who plays Kato in Green Hornet. So he's very good in it. And it's set around a guy who is he's got a tofu shop, and he is his son.
Yeah.
And he has got a Toyota Corolla AE86 in it, or Torino, I think they call him in Japan or whatever it is, isn't it? And yeah, and he works out he can drive ridiculously fast, especially if he drifts around corners rather than slowing down for them. And Yeah, there's lots of classic Jap cars and that. Lots of 80s and 90s cool Jap cars in that. And it's got quite a cool story. I've not made it sound very interesting, but I don't really want to spoil it for you. But it's definitely, I would have said, if you don't mind reading the subtitles, it's a wicked car film with lots of cool 90s cars. R32 Skylines, RX-7s, again, things like that. Lots of just very cool cars. And like I say, the star car of it, the AE86, is a car, one of my dream cars. I'd love to have one of them. So, yeah, that one definitely gets 5 stars for me all day long.
Well, we might as well stay over that part of the world for this and talk about a slightly more modern car film, which is one of the Fast and Furious franchise ones. And I know for a lot of people, they kind of look down on it and they don't view it in the same way as they do all the other ones. But for me, it's always been one of my favourites, and that's Tokyo Drift.
To be honest, well, that is one of my favourites as well. I have to admit, I 100% agree with you on that one.
I know it doesn't have like the same levels of action and everything the other ones had, but at the beginning of the franchise, there wasn't all that action. There was a little bit, but it was mainly based around the cars. And to be fair, I think it's close to being one of the last ones. It is more based around the cars than it is about the action.
I always said it was, because number 4 was when they started going, because Tokyo Drift was number 3, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Number 4 was when they started going back into the more, I mean, it was, they say they're all based on vehicular warfare, aren't they? But that was when they started going into FBI, CIA, drug dealers, things like that.
This was just purely about cars. It was the scene in Japan at the time, and it was becoming more and more popular over this part of the world at the time, was drifting.
Yeah.
And it was all based around, this lad who, he's an American lad. He gets into trouble all the time, and he goes to live with his father in Japan. Yeah. And through, being a petrol head and everything like that, he meets all these people who are the same way minded. And whereas over in the States, he was into drag racing, over there it was all drift. So he learns how to drift. He meets Han, who was obviously much more prevalent in the later films.
Yeah, that's what I quite like about it, is the fact that it kind of shows it from a different point of view, where somebody's actually trying to learn it. So I think that was a thing that kind of spoke to a lot of people, was the fact that you watching this kiddie who starts off not knowing anything about drifting, working his way through and everything like that, which I thought was really cool.
And also, it's a completely different scene to everything else that had been around at the time. It was just becoming the big thing at the time.
That's right, and it's. Sorry, I just realised my camera isn't actually recording, but it's. What's it doing? No, it is. Stupid thing. But yeah, sorry, excuse the interruption there. But yeah,
technical issues.
Yeah, we're actually because we had a problem with data loss. We're actually recording on 2 GoPros now instead of 1, because we recorded our last car talks and we lost them. So now we've got a backup.
But funnily enough, one of the videos being this one.
Yes. But yeah, going back to what we were talking about. I mean, funny enough, because I was going to say, I mean, if you're a petrol head and you haven't seen anything out of the Fast and Furious franchise, you must have been living under a rock, I have to admit. But it's, so I was going to actually ask you what your favourite one was, because I say mine was a toss-up between Tokyo Drift, and for the very same reason, it's about cars.
Yeah.
And number 1. I love number 2 as well, but number 1, 2 and 3 are my favourite 3. Yeah. But number 1 and number 3, I can't usually decide which one is. Tokyo Drift and just the Fast and the Furious, where you first meet the gang. And again, it starts off more about street racing. And you've got a guy who's going in as an undercover cop to have a look at these street racers, because there's heists going on. And like I say, and it is a really cool film. And I just love the way it was done. There was lots of fast, flashy cars, neons, NOS, good paint jobs with vinyl stickers on, big spoilers, different wheels. It was fitted in perfectly in the early 2000s, didn't it, for everything that we wanted on our cars, which is brilliant.
And they were talking the language that we were talking at the time. Everybody was talking about. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, I just made my car look a little bit more flashy. It was just like, it was like Veilside kits and certain engine modifications and turbo upgrades and bits and pieces like that. All the stuff that we were going, oh, I'd love, like you said, I'd love to be able to do that to my car, and these people were living it.
Yeah, and I was like, one thing that not a lot of people will know about the Fast and Furious 1 though is it is actually partially a remake.
Oh really?
Yeah, of a film with Charlie Sheen in about Porsches being stolen.
Oh, right.
And it's very similar. There's a guy who comes in as an undercover cop. He falls in love with his sister, and Charlie Sheen is the guy who's stealing all the cars.
Yeah.
And I'm really kicking myself because I love that film and I cannot remember what it is called. But I will try and put a caption somewhere here in the video to let you guys know what that one is called when I've done some research. But yeah, not a lot of people know that that is a remake.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, and which is really cool. And again, that is another film. If you haven't seen it, it's worth a watch. I really do quite like it. I mean, it's mainly Porsche based rather than modified cars. But if you're a petrol head and you want to watch a good film on that day, and you like Charlie Sheen as well, it's worth a watch.
We'll put the name of the film in the links below when Dorian can remember what it's called.
Yeah, that's right. I'll do some Google searching, and but it's and because I was gonna say again, and going through the remake side, and going on another segue, another film that I would recommend and is one of my all-time favourites is Gone in 60 Seconds.
Oh my god, what a film!
Yeah, the Nick Cage version is absolutely fantastic. The Eleanor in that is amazing, and again, not a lot of people realise that there is a 1970s Gone in 60 Seconds, and so the Nick Cage version that came out in late 90s, early 2000s is actually a remake. But I will say the cars in the remake are nicer looking from my point of view.
Much better than they were in the 70s version.
Yeah, because the original Eleanor was actually a Mach 1 1971 Mustang, or a Boss 1971 Mustang with a square front end, not the 60s Shelby Eleanor you see in the Nick Cage version.
The GT500,
Yeah, and I mean, but again, that is a fantastic film. Gone in 60 Seconds is based around car thefts and family drama and things like that. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's really worth watching. It's got famous English actor as a bad guy in it, isn't it? I've forgotten his name.
He was Doctor Who at one point.
That's right. And there's
he's called Christopher Eccleston.
There we are. Christopher Eccleston's in it. You've got Angelina Jolie, which is never a bad thing from my point of view. And
Vinnie Jones.
Vinnie Jones is in it. He plays a class character. There's loads of quite famous people in it.
Robert Duvall's in it.
That's right as well. Yeah, there's a fantastic cast. It's really put together. I mean, there's a couple of bits in it that are very Hollywood.
Very much so, yeah.
But it's a Hollywood film, and I tell you, it's one of those ones. If you're a petrol head, it's a must see. I have to admit.
Even if you don't enjoy the storyline, it's just watching all the different cars.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I don't know how you couldn't enjoy the storyline. It's one of those films that. But I've always been from a point of view where I'll watch a film like the newer Gone in 60 Seconds. People are saying they're getting stupid, and when you sit down and actually tell someone the premise of it, well, the latest one, they went to space in a Pontiac Fiero. So, I mean, you say to that to someone, they're like, what? I was telling somebody about it the other day, I went, no, it sounds worse when I say it like that than it actually is. But if you watch them and just appreciate them as an action film, don't look at it as a documentary, then it's a great film. And I said, there's certain, not a lot of it, but little tiny bits in Gone in 60 Seconds where you think, well, that would never happen. Of course it wouldn't, it's Hollywood. So that's the way I would say, a lot of these films you might take a bit tongue-in-cheek, but that is what it is. But I say, could you think of any more? Because
one that isn't actually a remake, but is actually based off of a video game.
Yeah.
And I know it's one of your favourites as well. It's Need for Speed.
Well, I was going to say, if you couldn't think of one, that was going to be my next thing. Because I don't know why, because they've got nothing in common at all. But Gone in 60 Seconds, one of my favourite films, and Need for Speed is up there with it.
Yep.
And I think it's just because they're not Fast and Furious franchise is the only thing they've really got in common. But
and the thing is they're good car films. And this is the thing is that makes them different from, like we said about the later Fast and Furious films, is they are based solely on cars.
Yeah,
you know.
I love Need for Speed because I mean, as many of you car nuts would know, Need for Speed computer games been going for years. Fantastic games, and they are ones that I would recommend as games as well if you're bored. But there's a few scenes in the film where they've got the camera in the right shot and you can see the guy steering, you can see the car sliding, and it's just like in the games, and that's one thing I love about it is they've done the crossover incredibly well. And there is a bit of a cue to the games, like the way that the actual dash display is, the heads-up display on the Mustang in it is like a computer game. It's really cool. And there was a game that came out at the same time, The Run, which I got really into because of the film. But again, it's a brilliant film. It's not about car theft, is it? It's about a car company, a car garage, and a guy who runs it. Aaron Paul is in it. You might know him from Breaking Bad. I actually saw Gone in 60 Seconds before I'd watched any Breaking Bad. Oh, not Gone in 60 Seconds. Need for Speed before I'd watched any Breaking Bad. And I loved him in that film. Absolutely fantastic film, and he plays a brilliant character in it. And it's The storyline really sucks you in.
Yep.
The characters in it are brilliant, and it is about racing and about street racing. And there's supercars in it, muscle cars, hypercars.
Yeah.
Just if you're a petrol head, it again is a must see. They've got classic cars in there. I love that film, and like I say, the storyline is very good, and even the film itself. In some places, I like the cut scenes you get in the games, and as somebody who enjoyed the games, especially growing up, I would definitely say that it's a well worth a watch. Brilliant, brilliant film.
Definitely made by somebody who's a fan of the games.
Oh, 100%. And they've done, like I say, they've done a really good sort of version, well, really good film sort of adaptation of it. I believe they've done a fantastic job, because there are certain films that come from computer games. I'm not going to name them, but there's certain films you watch and you think, oh, really? I liked that game until I saw the film.
Yeah.
And this is definitely not one of them. If anything, it made me want to go and play some more Need for Speed. So, very good.
Well, just before we run out of time on this one that we would be remiss not to mention, because it is the most people's top car film, if you ask them, really. That's Bullet.
Yes, Bullet is a brilliant one, and funny enough, as much blasphemy as it is what I wanted to say, I've never seen Bullet all the way through. I've seen the car chase loads of times, but I've never seen it all the way through, the famous chase between the Charger and the Mustang. And it's a film I need to finish watching, but...
it is all about the car chase. I mean, the rest of the film is fine, but that car chase that's the reason why that film is so popular and so well known, is because you think it was filmed in I believe the early 70s.
I think so, yeah.
Something like that must have been amazing. I mean, because obviously we've got so many films these days with car chases and bits and pieces, but that was probably one of the earlier ones, so there must have been absolutely amazing to see something like that.
Oh, 100%. And it's there's a few like that, because I was going to say, actually, before we do go, I was going to try and list off as many, because I have got a collection of car films, quite a collection, and I was going to try and list off as many of the ones I could think of off the top of my head, which I didn't. I mean, to be honest, I just got to the stage where I wanted to watch a car film, didn't know what to get, so I started going on Amazon ordering pound DVDs of car films I'd never heard of before. So I thought I'd rattle off a few to you now. One of them is Fast Track No Limits, which is again a street racing film, low budget, but I like the storyline to it. There's hot girls in it, nice cars in it. It's worth a watch. Hot guys in it if you're a girl, I suppose. Yeah, and things like that. And there's a few cars in it like Supras, Beamers, bits and bobs. So that was a good one. Another one, Born to Race. The first one, that was another modern film, which is really cool. I like that one.
I believe there's another one called Born to Ride as well, wasn't there? That was the same.
It's Born to Race 2 something Ride. Yeah, that one. But they changed the characters in that, so I didn't like it as much. But the first one is about a kid who gets in it. He's a really good racer, gets into trouble. Mum sends him to live with his dad, a strange dad, who's also got a car shop and like workshop. He's really good. And he starts a new school, everything like that, and it's all about, really starts going through the drag racing. There's a lot of familiar faces in there. If you watch Dexter, the cop who's trying to chase him down, the surprise motherfucker one is, he's in it. The guy who plays his kid, he's quite a reasonably famous actor. There's quite a few faces in there I recognised but couldn't tell you what the names were. But that's a really good film. Lots of cool cars, Mustangs, Subarus, Hondas, all sorts of things like muscle and Jap sort of kind of that sort of rivalry in America is in it. That's a good one. There's also, like I said, the classic ones I would have said. You got Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry, Le Mans with Steve McQueen. You've got Bullet. There's an original one, Driver. The Driver, that's a good one.
Cannonball Run's another good classic. Smoking the Bandit.
So yeah, I love Smoking the Bandits 1 and 2. I've got number 3, but I never watched it all the way through because it didn't have Burt Reynolds in it. You've got, then you've got the remakes, the film versions of Starsky and Hutch and Dukes of Hazzard, which are more comedic. But again, they're worth a watch if you can watch them for free. But I'm not the biggest fan of those ones.
They're definitely films where the car is more famous than the film.
I believe so, yeah. They're ones, if you like the car, then it's worth a watch just if you've never seen it. What was the other films I was going to say? There is a couple of other ones I got that was... I'm just trying to think of what they were now. Yeah, there's a couple of others. I've got loads underneath this couch and everything like that. There's because that, like I say, it was Starsky and Hutch and Dukes of Hazzard, which threw me off my stride. Then there's a couple of others that I thought of. You got the Taxi films.
Oh yes,
French Luc Besson.
Yeah.
Who did a lot of quite famous films.
Yeah.
So they are quite action packed. Fantastic, about a guy who was a pizza delivery boy, who was incredibly quick, who becomes an incredibly quick taxi driver with a modified taxi, who then accidentally ends up driving stupidly quick with a copper as a fare. So he then has to go and work with the coppers, and it's just brilliant. It's fantastic. The comedy in it is brilliant. There's the female lead in that is quite a famous woman, isn't she? French actress.
Marianne Cotillard.
That's it. She's in it as well. She is fantastic in it. She's got a good sense of humour. So they're very good films, worth 100% worth a watch if you can get them.
Definitely.
And there's 4 of them, I believe.
Yes.
And they're very good. There's a 2-lane blacktop, which a lot of the American hot rodders love. That one to me was okay. It was all right. Australian brilliant one is Running on Empty. I watched that one. I love that film. It's a brilliant film, an Aussie one. The Mad Max films.
Yep.
Post-apocalyptic 2, 3, and 4. Lots of mad creation cars. The first one is about a copper.
What was the Eric Bana film where he's into all his cars and racing and everything?
Oh yeah, there's actually a documentary one with Eric Bana in it, which is called Love the Beast, and it is about his obsession with cars and his Ford Falcon XB Coupe, which is the same as Mad Max's, which is great. That is a fantastic one. That is definitely well worth a watch. I got that on DVD and I got a digital copy of that. Oh, now you said that, there was another documentary one I was watching recently as well, and I can't remember what it is now.
There's obviously the Ford versus Ferrari film with Christian Bale and Matt Damon in. That's a fantastic film about the history of the Ford GT40, and
I keep meaning to watch that, but I've not actually seen that.
A great film.
There is a documentary on Netflix about Carroll Shelby. That's very good. If it's still on there, I watched it months ago. Fantastic. But yeah, that's very good. But again, we're going into kind of bordering harsh TV shows there, which I think is another video, because we've already been 20 minutes, because that's what that alarm was about.
What we'll do is we'll link all the other ones we haven't mentioned underneath, and then you guys can go on and look them up and watch them for yourselves then. Yeah,
that's it. And I mean, Back to the Future has got an awesome car in it.
Yeah.
Which is also a time machine. It's a DeLorean that's a time machine. It's not really a car film, but it's got a badass car in it, so I would recommend that one as well. But
if you guys have seen any that aren't on our list and we haven't mentioned, please let us know, because we're always game for finding new films, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. And I keep thinking, if you're a horror fan, Christine. I'm sorry, I keep thinking of more. These are all films I got a lot of them are underneath the seat we're sat on, because I got them on DVD. But yeah, let us know what you think about the list we've given out. If there's any you've missed off, or we've missed off, any that you would recommend for us to watch, because like Morg said, anything to do with cars, especially with car films and that, I've usually got a lot of time for car films and TV shows and everything. So yeah, let us know, and we hope you enjoyed it. We hope you're enjoying season 2 so far, and we will catch you in the next one.
Cheers. Oh, Herbie.